Watkins Glen played a pivotal role in the Young Championship for the Simpit Road Racing Series 1 week ago, taking out points leader Terry Crouch and handing another win to Englishman Sam Holt, all while bringing us right to Sam's home circuit. In amateur, everyone's chasing Edgar Sanginelli to keep that lead from growing, but this could be a huge race for anyone who's able to grab the win today. Hi, welcome to Pit Stop TV and the virtual Silverstone circuit. I'm Andrew Cardinale IV with Emerson Arden alongside in the booth. And it's our first points-beating trip across the pond today, Emerson, and it's a tough circuit to master as well. There's no easy anything to Silverstone. It is flat, it is fast, and you need to use every bit of grip you have in the car.
Absolutely. Because it's flat, the corners are harder to see. There's a great mix of slow, medium, and high-speed corners. There is plenty of passing zones alike, but there's also just as many tricky bits of track around the circuit, like Maggots and Beckett's and Cops Corner and so on and so forth. But I can't wait to get into racing here today, and you can see the beautiful circuit there on the screen.
Yeah, track map up on your screen, presented by Whiplash Media Sim Cams, and of course we are on the Grand Prix layout of Silverstone Circuit. It is flat, it is fast. As I said, you have to use every bit of grip in the car, whether that's mechanical or downforce. I guess that's technically mechanical grip, but whether it's from the tires or the downforce in the car, you've got to use every bit to get around this place as fast as possible. Abbey is your first challenge, not only because it's turn number 1, but also because it is relatively flat out to be fast, and it's a flat corner. It's a sweeper that brings you into Farm and Village, the Loop, and Aintree. There's a lot of big-time corners here that I think are historical to Formula 1 and all other kinds of racing at Silverstone. It is a classic circuit that has that kind of new school feel, with that kind of intersection now with Farm, Village, the Loop, Aintree, and down Wellington Straight. It all feels a little bit new to some, and feels like maybe just part of it to others, but there are a lot of big parts of this circuit as you make each lap around. Of course, Cops, Maggots, and Beckett's, the Hanger Straight and Stowe. That is such a classic piece of racetrack to Formula 1 and so many other disciplines. But let's talk about our standings. Enough about Silverstone Circuit. Our standings after 3 rounds of 10. This is, of course, round number 4. And Randall White is your new point leader by 2 points over Terry Crouch. 4 over Sam Holt with his 2 wins of the season, and Jan Christensen is still only 6 points back. Joe Antonio notches a place in the top 5, and things start to get a little spread out from there, Emerson. You've got Flo Doms in the top 10, 43 points out of the point lead. Already it's looking like some of these guys are underwater.
Absolutely, but as you mentioned, we're still kind of in a young season here. There is time to turn this around. We've only completed 3 rounds. This is round 4 today. If you're going to make a comeback in these point standings, it starts with a good run today. And then also, Sunshine has a 7-point lead on the amateur side, looking to see if we can maintain that. But also, Daniel Clark with 1 win also is bringing some pace with him coming into today's race as well.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about, I think, through this entire field. We've even got some new drivers that it sounds like have signed up to make their first start today, maybe even next week. So adding some fresh meat, if you will, to this series. There's so much to talk about each and every time these guys hit the track. Practice wrapping up, 10 seconds to go. We'll take a brief look at the standings here with Sam Holt. What do you know? Fastest over Terry Crouch, Randall White, Joe Antonio, and Jan Christensen. So your top 5 in points and the top 5 in practice, albeit mixed around just a little bit. Leading in amateur, though, you got Kenny Stepp over Daniel Clark, who won last week, and Ed Sanginelli, who's got the points lead. So this very much feels like exactly where this series left off 1 week ago, Emerson, and it's going to be, I think, an interesting continuation of what we've seen so far.
Absolutely, and I think this track is going to promote some great race coupled along with the GTE cars. It's going to be a fun show, and the cars are hitting the track for qualifying here. You see the track time very low, 69 degrees Fahrenheit. Air temp just about the same, and the winds on this flat track, it's not gonna help these drivers out any bit. 10 miles an hour out of southwest.
Yeah, winds on a flat track where there's not much natural camber or banking in the corner to help catch the car. That's going to move these guys around quite a bit, especially into corners like Cops, Maggots and Beckett's, Stowe. There are definitely some places where I think winds could be a factor depending on which way they're blowing. Coming across southwest, I'd actually have to pull this place up on a map and take a look to get an idea of the orientation, but that could definitely either lift the rear wing of the car up into a corner, or it could very much help give a little bit extra downforce and actually give some extra nose, some front grip into some corners. So we'll have to wait and see. On board here with Clinton Fletcher out of the great state of Texas. He fires down the comps now as he's on his outlap. Everybody is. There are some drivers opting to stay in the pit lane for now. Andrew White, one of them, along with Nicholas Batista and Ola Sarnquist. But for the most part, everybody on track quickly for this open qualifying session. And this is always kind of a fun thing. You don't see this in every series, Emerson, where it's a completely open session. Everybody on track at once. But man, it is a spectacle to watch.
And it comes down to a few decisions, right? There's only 27 cars. I say only, but it is a smaller number than what we're used in the series, right? And this track being at 3 2/3 of a mile, it's a pretty big track. So there's plenty of space for everybody to get out there, run their own laps. But do you want that extra space, or do you want to try to get a tow from somebody? Maybe a little bit of help down the Hanger and Wellington Straits and the old front stretch and all that jazz. We'll have to see. I'm seeing a few groups and some solo cars running around here. I wonder which strategy will prevail.
Just taking a look at a track map over on my other monitor with the cardinal direction, at least of north, pointed out to me, it looks like these guys might have a little bit of extra grip. They're going to have a headwind into Stowe. So that means they're going to have a crosswind out of Copps and into Maggots and Beckett's. And they're going to have a tailwind actually into Abbey to begin each lap, which is going to be, I think, interesting to watch. And maybe a little bit of a headwind as well as they head through Brooklands and Luffield, which might give them a little bit of extra grip and actually might help turn these cars in the center of that corner, which is going to be, again, interesting to watch. So just adding to the factors here for these guys to have to come to terms with for qualifying. Taking a look at Sven Labe and his number 42 Porsche 911 RSR, and I gotta say, this is one of the most iconic GT cars of the last 20 years or so, Emerson. It just sounds so good. You don't quite get that sound on iRacing the way you would have if you were at a track seeing this car compete in real life, but man, Porsche really outdid themselves with the exhaust on this RSR several years back now, and it's definitely one of the better looking, I think, 911s, and that's saying something considering all 911s usually look pretty good.
Oh yeah, it's quite the piece of racing machinery, and you're gonna watch them here go into Maggots and Beckett's. It does look nice, even hitting all these corners and apexes.
So the Get Pole Racing 42 has one objective in mind, and that is to get pole, as he is, well, gonna have to actually pull off and abandon that lap time. Might have got an off track somewhere, but Terry Crouch is headed through club this time, and he'll head down to the start-finish line to wrap up his first flying lap of the qualifying session. He's been fast so far this season, but crashed out early at Watkins Glen, and being the first driver to turn a time, he goes first for now. Where's Sam Holt, though? He comes across the line, and oh, that must have been an off-track lap. That lap does not count for Sam. Stan Donnet goes to third, and Jan Christensen goes to the second position in his Ferrari 488, and there it is, Emerson. Randall White to the top of the board in car 84.
Bring in the heat, trying to maintain the positioning at the top of the points standings, and off to a great start here in qualifying. But again, long lap, and there's plenty of time to be made up out here. Will there be more drivers taking a like to Randall White at the top of the timing sheet, or will he be able to hold on to the duration of the next 5 or so minutes?
Fastest AM driver so far, Ed Sanchinelli out of Frito Sport, and Frito himself looking pretty good, picking up right where he was left off so far this season. I think definitely after this season, you've got to look at putting this guy up to pro. And we talk about that in all the series that we have this kind of breakdown. We talked about it with the British Sim Racers earlier in the year. We talk about it with the North American Racing League when they're active. And, well, we're talking about it here at the Simpit Road Racing Series, Emerson. Anytime an amateur driver excels like this, yeah, they've got a target on their back to move up a class.
And it's almost like every series we do cover, there is 1 or 2 drivers that fit that bill. And it's always so hard to accurately, categorize each of their drivers. And I know these series do a great job and take their time doing so. But yeah, he is up here, and he's putting on some great performances this season. But within his own category, a 7-point advantage. That is still something that he has to keep in mind throughout the season. Can't take any big risks. Even though, you may be running a little bit higher in the running order.
it's especially difficult to categorize these drivers when they race in their own time, as Terry Crouch goes to the top of the board in qualifying for Pro and overall. Sam Holt moves into the 3rd position, Flo Dom's 4th, Moses Choi in 5th. But it's especially difficult when these drivers race on their own time outside of the league to earn themselves I rating, safety rating, and who knows what else. And, they might race in special events, they might race in other leagues, they might race official races, and so they're always getting better. And it's difficult to keep up with that kind of rating for a league like this. So Santinelli, I think, has definitely put in some homework, has continued to get better throughout the course of this season, and this season has only just begun still. We're only at round 4, there we go, of 10, so still a very young season here for the Simpit Road Racing Series. Kenny Stepp, though, is getting closer to battling for pole in amateur as he goes to a 1:57.344, and that is just under 3/10 off of Santinelli, as, hey, Dan Clark now goes for pole in amateur. He goes to 12th.
And again, has that very 7 points. I guess in the grand scheme of being in the 4th race of the season, maybe not as small of a margin as you like, or as competitive a margin as you like. But this is a step to closing that up, because again, it only takes a little bit. And Dan Clark with this little bit of an advantage here in qualifying. I think it's 2 spots over Santinelli. It's already beginning that step of closing the margin. They both have a win on the season. And Dan Clark is showing up and saying that he's not the only
that's
one.
it. That's it for his lap, and that might be it for his qualifying run. It's going to be tough for him to get back around and actually have hot tires for another lap. So Dan Clark goes for that slide. Santinelli still on the track, but Emerson, you mentioned it's only 2 positions on track right now between Clark and Santinelli, but that is 4/10 nearly between those two in the qualifying order, and that is a lot to overcome at a place like this. You might be able to get a 10th here and there, maybe even some hundredths, but it's really tough to amass 4/10 nearly when the place is so flat. There's so little room for error. To be able to push like that and get those 4/10 is going to be difficult for the BMW, especially at a place like this, but Santinelli is giving it a go as he comes down into turn 16. He'll get one more shot after this lap, but you have to wonder if the tire is going to be able to handle that.
And certainly, or if he'll be able to run a lap in peak conditions and a little bit sideways coming across the line there, or coming off the final corner and coming across the line.
And he's done.
That'll do it.
Man.
I also saw Sam Holt go for a slide as well. So these drivers, they are pushing. Sam Holt was going at it for pole. He slid about 30 seconds ago. So he's trying to cool off his tires and go at it one more time.
Terry Crouch currently on pole by 0.2 of a second. Officially, it is 0.209. It is 0.221 from Terry Crouch to 3rd place Sam Holt. So as he fires into stow, we'll see if he can improve on this lap. Flo Don sits in 4th at a 1:55.491 to Terry's 1:54.929. So Terry, the only driver in the 154 so far today. We'll see if that changes at race condition. And here comes Sam Holt to wrap up his qualifying effort. Let's see what he can do here, Emerson. He might get one more lap as well, so this might not be it for Sam Holt, but across the line, is it any faster? And that, I think, was an out lap, so he's just got to the line in time, actually, to make one more lap. So he's beginning his final attempt here at qualifying. This will be fun.
Actually, that last lap was the lap he slid into Brooklands. So he's going at it again here into the 345 complex, and it's going to be working his way down to Wellington Straight. How about Randall White?
Yeah, Randall White headed into Cops. He is on a timed lap, on a flying lap, so we'll see what he's able to do in a few moments when he comes back around. Terry Crouch, meanwhile, it looks like headed through, this looks like Sector 1, so he just began a lap to see if he can defend his pole. Flo Doms, meanwhile, let's see, where is he on the course? He's actually headed down to Stone now. Headed past the old pit straight, so we'll see what he's able to do potentially. He's nearly a half second behind Pole right now. You can see Pole, well, actually it is over half second, and that's going to be it. He's done as he stuffs it in stow. So Flo Doms is going to start 4th or worse. Jan Christensen on track, and how about this? Todd Alea actually goes 4th quick. That moves Flo Doms back to 5th place. Jan Christensen in the top 10, but he's fallen back to 7th position. Chris Generelli now, no more attempts for car 7. He will start 8th or worse. Joe Antonio, though, 9th position. He's been getting some top 5 recently and has been fast, and it looks like that time moves him up into the top 5. 4th quick for car 31. Meanwhile, Terry Crouch and Sam Holt are done, and Randall White goes to pole at Silverstone.
After that last second jump up to the top of the sheet, everybody's wrapping up their final laps now, and we're seeing these times come to light here.
The track, I think, is cooling down a little bit. It looks like, well, actually, no, I think we're in morning. If anything, the track is taking some heat and actually getting a little bit faster in that way. There's a sweet spot. You don't want it to be too cold. You certainly don't want it to be too hot. And when the track takes a little bit of heat in the morning, that's when times are fastest. When you just start to build that optimal temperature, I think that's what we're seeing for some of these guys is Christensen will come around and wrap up one more lap. I'm not sure that Alea's will count, but he's going to go for it. Dan Clark also on track, I think ahead of Christensen here on track. Oberlo still on track. Sarnquist on track, and Sam Hinchey finally making his way onto the circuit. I'm unsure if that time will count, but here we go. Jan Christensen, one more shot at pole. Can he do it? The answer is no.
Jump up one spot, but that'll do it for Christensen.
He actually didn't move up at all. He actually, I think he came out of club and realized the time just was not there, and he pulled over quick and said, "Nope, I'm done."
I said he jumped. Moses.
Interesting. Well, either way, Jan Christensen 7th, Moses Choi in 8th. We'll see if Todd Alea can go any faster. He is the final car on track. Everybody else just pulled off. And Todd Alea across the line. Does he go any faster? It looks like there's a slight improvement. But that time does not move him up at all, actually. I wonder if that was a disqualified lap. Must have gone on track because that was 400ths of a second quicker than his previous time, but that still would not have moved him to 4th position. So qualifying then in the books. Generelli still in his car, but that's not going to help him get on track at all as we come to a close here in qualifying. Let's take a look at your track map once again. Actually, you know what? Let's actually pivot. Let's take a look at our schedule here, Emerson. Round 4, Silverstone today, Daytona next week, Monza after that. 3 very, very fast racetracks.
And actually, it doesn't stop. There's this middle portion of the schedule is all very high speed circuits. It takes a lot. We're gonna have a lot of heavy braking zones, a lot of passing opportunities. These races are gonna be a lot of fun to cover.
Yeah, I really think so. And of course, it seems like we're bouncing between you and JP this season, so I can't wait to see who we get for Le Mans. That's going to be a lot of fun. We were talking about that a little while ago. I'm excited to see what Le Mans is like. We obviously I know what Le Mans is like in a way, but we have not broadcast from Le Mans before, so that's going to be a lot of fun. I really think that's my favorite track that we have remaining, although Fuji will also be an exciting experience for us here at Pit Stop TV. Let's take a look at our rundown, our starting order for round number 4 at Silverstone. Randall White on pole here for the Simpit Road Racing Series. Starting second, you'll find Terry Crouch in car 59. I think a surprise starting position, though, for Sam Holt. He will start from 3rd today. Starting 4th, you'll find Joey Antonio. So a stacked top 4 as we fire down to turn number 1 for the first time today. Todd Aleo will start from 5th. Flo Doms from 6th. And Jan Christensen starting a little bit deep in the top 10 from 7th. Moses Choi grids up in 8th, and starting 9th and 10th, you'll find Chris Generelli and Sven Labe.
Back in row 6, it'll be Stan Donnet and James Dowling. They'll start 11 and 12 respectively. Row 7 will find Dan Clark and Johnny Alford there, 13th and 14th. Find our way back to 15th. It'll be Clint Fletcher and Sam Hinchey. He will start in the 16th position. That completes row number 8. Back to row number 9. It'll be the 57 of Ed Sanchinelli, and Sean Cole in the 39 will start 18th. And round out row 10, it'll be Ken Estep and Dustin Oberlo there in 20th.
The final 7 positions for a slightly lighter field here for the Simpit Road Racing Series look like as follows. Ola Sarnquist from 21st, David Payne from 22nd, Christopher Schultheis from 23rd, Alesh Mam from 24th, and then 3 more cars made up of Mike Nickham, Nicholas Batista, and Andrew White. And worth noting for sure is the penalty for James Dowling. He was recently docked points in this championship because he did not adhere to previous penalties, actually, from Road America. He needed to start in the back of the field last week at Watkins Glen, did not do that, and therefore faces a larger penalty and that start from the pit lane that carries over now to this week. So that result he got at Watkins Glen last week in that battle with Sean Cole. Unfortunately, James Dowling's result from last week thrown out of the window, and he's got to work for some points here today for sure. we head down to the final corners of this circuit with a full field of 27 GTE machines, mostly Porsches for sure, but we've got some Ferraris, we've got some Chevrolets, and maybe even an errant BMW or two. But here we go. Out of turn number 18 at Silverstone, we're going to turn these boys loose, down to Abbey for the first time. Green flag flies from England. Already, Todd Alea battling with Flo Doms as we head down to turn number 3, and that is a quick pass for Alea to get right back by the 13, but they are still in lockstep formation, and down to the inside, Sam Holt gets the best of Terry Crouch. That is a move for second.
And one spins. Go around.
Wow. Sam Holt around on lap 1 at his home circuit.
That's so easy to do on these cold tires, Andrew. It was a very short formation lap. They didn't really have a chance to warm up the tires, and he tried to get on the throttle a little aggressively in his battle with Terry Crouch, and unfortunately just spun up the rear tires. And around goes another car. That's Alesh Mom.
Alesh Mom goes for a spin, and then car 194. A rough start there for Alesh. But up in the front of the field, Randall White leads us down to comps for the first time. And oh boy, what an opening lap. Suddenly, I feel like this championship was already wide open, Emerson, but it's actually wide open. Sam Holt is in the back at potentially his best chance at victory, even though he's just won back-to-back races. This is huge for everybody in this field.
And that's the beauty of it, right? All it can take is one, and this entire season can change completely. And we're watching the field work their way through Maggot's Bag. It's down to Hanger straight. We're not even done with the first lap yet.
Huge implications. But you know what? From our perspective, that's fantastic. Nothing against Sam Holt, but this is going to be a lot of fun to watch him storm through this field. He just made a pass in Stowe, getting by Christopher Schultheis in the BMW Art car into that corner. Now will fire maybe down to the inside. No, he stays in behind Dustin Oberlo in the 20th position, so he will have to wait one more lap, it looks like. Meanwhile, Randall White comes across and one more spins. Dan Clark does not spin, but he does spin out of the final corner, and he drops down to 16th, maybe 17th, as here goes Sarnquist, and he takes that position away.
All of a sudden, Andrew, the opening lap, two major players, one in the pro and one in the amateur.
And Sancinelli's slow. He gives him spots. Gives him multiple spots. A slowdown maybe for Sancinelli. The car looks okay, and look at this gaggle through the first couple of corners on this lap. Cars everywhere, literally, in this battle, Emerson. This is crazy stuff.
There's way too much for us to even keep up with. But this track, it's wide. It's got the passing zones galore all over the place. It's proving very pivotal early here at Silverstone.
Sam Holt works around the outside of David Payne. No, sticks his nose to the inside momentarily of Dan Clark, who spun earlier in this lap. Mike Nickham has just spun, it looks like, further deep in the field, but we'll stay here with Sam Holt and watch him storm through this field. This is now for the 17th position. If he can get by Dan Clark into Stowe, he's going to move to the inside. No, he stays in behind the Wally Jeans 114. That was, I think, a wise choice not to pass in Stowe just yet. Lap 2, let these pressures come up, let these guys get used to the race, and go from there. And oh, we got a spin in the background. Oh. Fletcher contact with somebody else. That's Sven Laberround.
Just constant action all over the place. Two cars going around in Maggots and Beckett's, and I'd imagine just two cars probably going for the same piece of real estate without even looking at the replay at it. And now there's going to be a huge gaggle, huge mess of cars down this Hanger Straight.
Sam Holt making a move here. He goes by Dan Clark into Stowe. So a big pass there. Sancinelli, meanwhile, works on Sarnquist. So two BMWs battling. Just battles everywhere here at Silverstone. What a great start to this race. Going to Silverstone might sound like it's going to be a downforce fest, and maybe you can't pass all that often, but boy, this has been anything but boring so far. What a race. We're only 2 laps in. Letting this lap go on by, and then we want to get a replay of what happened there to, our favorite of the day, Sam Holt. I am so surprised that he went around that early.
I think, the ice just kind of opened up, saw the opportunity for the spot very early on in the race, and really just lit up the rears, just trying to maybe keep up down the Wellington Straight. That battle was going to be pretty nice heading into uh, Brooklands and Lufeld.
Yeah, it happens out of Aintree, so here's the onboard with Sam. He crosses over to the inside of Terry Crouch, a beautiful move there, and then he just turns, and the car goes right around. Cold tires, certainly, for Sam Holt. He spins. Wow, I don't really have anything else for that.
Yeah, it just lost rear grip, lost rear downforce. Just
he made no mistake. The car simply just did not want to have grip there. It just came around on him.
Yeah, it didn't even look like he hit the curb either. It's not a whole lot that could have really played. I'm guessing it is just the cold tires.
Meanwhile, this is his current view as he looks at Santinelli and Starnquist. This is midfield. Santinelli, the amateur leader, will have to give way, and he does. Drops Santinelli to 15th position, just ahead of David Payne. And now Sam Holt is able to focus up on Ola Starnquist for the 13th position. And it looks like Draft maybe will give him an opportunity into Stowe. And yes, he's going to look.
Gonna peek, he'll send it down into Stowe. He'll make the pass complete. And I was going to say, I like how there's some calculated aggression here with Sam Holt. It would have been easy to get mad at yourself or get mad and, you know, maybe make a little bit of an over-aggressive move there in the opening laps. But he's let these spots come to him, kind of avoided the incidents, doesn't take any unnecessary risks like we saw him sit behind a car in the cop's corner. Sam Holt's got that calculated aggression, trying to rework his way through this field.
I'm impressed. I won't lie. I am very impressed by Sam Holt's recovery drive so far. That said, he is still 17 seconds nearly behind our race leader of Randall White. Let's check in with our race leader as he heads down into, it looks like this might be Brooklands and Luffield potentially, and yes, it is, for Randall White and Terry Crouch. And Schultheis around to the back. And the BMW art car has a bit of a troubling time as Andrew White goes by in his Porsche, Kenny Stepp in his Ferrari, and even Sven Labe in his Porsche. But Randall White, I gotta say, this is impressive to be out here leading so far. We've seen him strong this season, but not leading strong, and this is a really big opportunity for Car 84. Meanwhile, trouble, Ed Santinelli around. Believe that is into Brooklands, and yes. Oh boy, that is tough. The amateur points leader.
And he's got to let everybody come on by. He's going to drop him to the rear of the running order. The tires are going to be overheated. And our amateur boy leader is in trouble.
Literally dead last after that. 26th out of 26 cars. Here's the replay for him. I think just that downshift to third brought him right around. Let's watch that one more time. Another really weird rear downforce incident, it looks like, for one of these drivers. First, we saw it for Sam Holt in a Porsche. This time for Ed Santinelli in a BMW. And watch the tach on the dash there. It's not so much a tachometer, but just watch the dash. And I think when you see the downshift to third gear into Brooklands here, you'll see the car just kind of pivot around. Fifth, fourth, third, and that's when the car just slowly comes around. I think just over-revving the rear of the car. Unfortunately, spins that BMW.
Yeah, when you see the red, the yellow lights come on that on the shift indicator that long, it's probably being over revved there, and wasn't a good sign for the rear end of that BMW.
I think there's definitely a place for downshifting kind of hot like that in iRacing. It doesn't usually do any damage to the motor. It's not going to damage the O-rings or head gasket or anything like that. But what it is going to do is severely change the handling of the car in that corner. And you just got to be careful of that when you're turning. In a straight line, it's not so bad, Emerson. You can usually deal with the rear end dancing around a little bit. But when you do that into a corner, you've already got the wheel turned. That's when you, have some issues, as we see there for Santinelli. But he gets back going. He is now, 26th position. That's going to be tough for him to swallow, as he's nearly 40 seconds behind our leaders. Here's James Dowling, though, battling with Dan Clark. Dowling had to start from the pit lane and is side-by-side with the Porsche. Clark takes that position back away. Maybe not.
They'll continue to duke it out down the old front straightaway, and there, Gene Carr kind of holds position there, Dan Clark.
Clark gives that spot up into Stowe, and the 34 goes right on by in James Dowling. He goes up to the 17th position. No Sean Cole today, it looks like. Actually, no, I say that. that I see his name immediately in 12th position. So Sean Cole is here, and for you Simpit viewers, you regulars, of course, you'll know that there is a Simpit Live that happens on Fridays at 12, and you know what? I didn't know about that until yesterday when I was on camera at South Boston. Had a bit of a break, checked into the Discord, and found out about that one. Props to Sean Cole and everything he's able to do here at the Simpit. It is a fantastic resource for sim racers everywhere to get some info on what is new in sim racing, particularly in sim racing gear. And so just tuning into a little bit of that VOD on Twitch, it was pretty interesting. And you can find more about that. Well, you can find those streams at Simpit Live on Twitch. And I certainly recommend going and giving it a listen at the very least. Treat it like a podcast maybe and check out what's going on. And Sean Cole, very interesting show that he had on Friday, and mentioned that he wouldn't have an opportunity to practice very much for this round, Emerson, but he's in 12th. He's ahead of Sam Holt. Obviously, there's an asterisk there, but he's right behind Sam Hinchy. He's not in a bad position, and I think, sure, you might have Sam Holt on your tail here very, very soon, but even 13th is not a bad day.
Absolutely not. Still running, with his class, on the scoring sheet, of course. And, if you run with Sam Holt, maybe you'll be able to pick up some of the paces that he's laying down, and maybe you'll be able to run with him, maybe follow him through the field if there's anything to that, because there's still a lot of time to improve upon this positioning as well.
Yeah, they are, of course, in the same car, in the Porsche 911 RSR, so there is that to consider, although I will say Sean Cole has given up a little bit of time early in this lap, and there is Sam Holt already breathing down Sean's neck as he heads into Maggots and Beckett's, and this will be a battle by the end of the lap, and it is. So here's Sam Holt from the onboard on the nose of that Porsche. He's going to look to the inside and stow, and there he goes, right on by.
Sean will let him on through, and I wonder if Sean will be able to pick up, with Sam there and see what he can do, and see if he can follow him forward. Right there, that is Dan Clark getting passed again.
Yeah, Sven Labe goes on by. Labe a pro, Clark an amateur. Makes a little bit of sense. Oh no, Dan Clark! My goodness. There was a save made, but boy, that was scary for a second. I had to just sit back and watch that one happen. Thankfully, Dan Clark hits nobody, just goes over a couple of curves and through some gravel, but my goodness, that could have been bad.
It's a little bit of a scary moment, and then, depending on the setups there, Sven, I don't know if he's on a triple monitor setup, but that, if you didn't see him coming, that also could have been a shock.
Yeah, if he didn't, that was a code brown, as Dan just, I think, got on the brakes late into Vale and goes straight on through turn 16 into that chicane. That could have been really, really bad.
Good heads-up move by both drivers there to avoid any more incident.
Let's take the onboard look here from the left side of Labe's car. That is one scary, scary look. Man. Well, if Sven if Sven hasn't been to a haunted house yet, he just got his jump scare for the week.
About that time, huh?
Yeah, it's not my kind of thing, not my cup of tea to go get jump scared all day, but yeah. Anyways, Sven Labe got his treatment there, I suppose, as we work on 14 minutes into this race. This is actually going by a little bit slower than some races have so far this season. I feel like Watkins Glen went by quickly last week, and that's nothing to say negatively necessarily about this race so far, but it's been calm in a way, but also a little bit chaotic. We've seen mistakes here and there, but we haven't seen big shunts or anything like that. Just spin out of lack of grip here and there, and just some good battles so far. Up front, though, things are very calm. Terry Crouch has dropped about a second behind Randall White from where he was previously. So 1.3 seconds or so is the gap between our top two. Todd Alay is less than a second back of Crouch, and really doesn't have much room to Joa Antonio. So that actually could be a great battle for third the rest of this opening run. There are those two Porsches as they head out of Aintree and down the Wellington Straight.
Yeah, actually, they just swapped positions coming into Village there. So it is shaping up and continuing to be a pretty intriguing battle. Alea currently heads that battle now with the third position, working their way through Brooklands and Leftfield now. But we'll see if Joe Antonio has anything for the rest of the lap.
So a somewhat quiet round as we get things going here at Silverstone. I say somewhat quiet, but again, it's there's still been action. It's a weird one for sure, and sometimes you just have those kinds of races. Let's run down through your top 10. Randall White leading the way in car 84 as well, he's got nearly a second and a half now to Terry Crouch in the second position. Todd Alea moves into third, Joe Antonio fourth. Jan Christensen, though, in his Ferrari sits in the fifth position currently, just ahead of Flo Doms by about 2.8 seconds. So a good rebound round, I think, for Flo, one that he needs as Moses Choi follows up in the seventh spot. Chris Generelli, though, in the eighth position in car 7. Good to see him hanging on to the top 10 along with Stan Donnet. And how about the Chevrolet Corvette of Johnny Alford, Emerson? We haven't seen much out of the Corvettes this season. It's always good to see a Corvette thriving. And in this case, Johnny Alford had a great round at Watkins Glen last week, doing pretty good so far today. At least in the top 10, and that's good to see.
Absolutely, piling on the pressure. We had a car around there.
Moses. Oh, that was not a great rejoin.
No, you can't do that. Luckily, gets away.
I think he was actually far enough over to the left side. He might have just gone over an access road. That's tough to say from the angle we had. He might not have had all that bad of a rejoin. He did drive across the track a little bit, but let's take an overhead look at this from the blimp. This will tell a bit more of the story. This is down into Vale once again. And Moses, the rear just comes around in that Porsche. We've seen that a lot today. Spins around to the middle of the track. And actually, that was a little scary, admittedly, in front of Alford and Hinchy. But then he actually drives off the course onto an access road. So that was actually a heads-up move from Moses. We'll take that one back.
Yeah. Just the placement of the car after the spin was telling the competitors coming by. But he did do everything right, rejoining the race.
As we come back to live picture, we are going to go pit stop TVs side by side as Alford now sits in ninth, chasing Stan Donnet. You won't miss a thing. We're going to take a step aside briefly and hear a couple of messages from our partners here at Pit Stop TV and the Simpit Road Racing Series, and we'll be back in just a moment as we get closer to pit stops here at Silverstone.
Have you found yourself trying to hide your joy because you're unhappy with your teeth? Your smile is the first feature noticed in an interview, on a date, or in family photos. We want you to be able to shine bright as your best self, and our teeth whitening system is the perfect step toward restoring your confidence.
Welcome back to the virtual Silverstone. Of course, you didn't miss a thing, although we are taking a top-down look currently at the battle for second, third, and fourth positions. Terry Crouch, Todd Alea, and Joa Antonio currently locked in a battle as they head through Maggots and Beckett's and now down the hangar straight. Things are continuing to ramp up here at Silverstone, and we're so glad you're joining us for the action here at Pit Stop TV. A big thank you, as always, to our partners here at the Simpit Road Racing Series. Of course, the Simpit.com, Gomez Sim Industries, Get Closer Racing, Accelerate Esports, each doing so much for this series, and our partners as well here at Pit Stop TV, Whiplash Media Simcams, SimRepMarket.com, and Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine. This first half of the coverage brought to you by Gomez Sim Industries, and currently we're watching one heck of a battle that I'm sure a lot of these guys are relying on their sim hardware for, whether it's a wheel, pedals, or what have you. They are certainly glad they've got some good force feedback around this course, as boy, this is always a challenging one for sports cars to come to, Emerson, and these guys are taking it in the teeth and rolling with it.
Absolutely. These cars, this track, it's flat. It provides a lot of unique challenges for these cars, and I don't know. It's just so synonymous with F1. But these sports cars, they put on a show today for sure, and you got to coming down the pit lane.
This is James Dowling. He started in the pit lane, so his graphic does not render for us. But he comes in, Christopher Schultheis comes in, and we've got pit stops actually really ramping up. This is early for these guys, but here comes Ed Sancinelli as well, so that tells you that this is planned for a lot of these drivers. Just over 20 minutes into the race. Again, it feels early, but if it works in their strategy, hey, it works in their strategy.
You know, for someone like Sancinelli, who's had some trouble early, right? Get this pit stop in, just kind of reset, kind of lock into a rhythm here for the final 37 minutes.
Tires for Schultheis.
Oh, man.
No tires for Sancinelli. That is the way to go. But tires for the 008, that is a bizarre call to me in a 1 hour race with GTE cars. He must have really felt like he burned through those tires, but he's going to have a heck of a time trying to get back up to speed and build those temperatures in those cold tires now. We don't exactly have tire warmers in iRacing, so that's going to make things difficult on him as the pneumatic jacks drop back down and he heads back out onto the racing course. I'm very surprised by that call.
Wonder if there's maybe a mistake. Maybe forgot to unselect the tires, and well, once they're already changed it to, you might as well have to change all of them.
So Schultheis works back onto the course. Meanwhile, that battle for second, third, and fourth, it's gone nowhere. Crouch still over Alea and Antonio, and they are still in this battle. And you have to wonder if tires will become a factor then. If Schultheis is pitting for tires, and of course we know this is a high lateral G circuit with all the downforce required, are we going to see some tires give out potentially? Not necessarily give out and fail, but some tire wear become part of the conversation.
Well, it's a little hard to tell, right? Because we're still early in the morning. The temperature on the track is not that hot. If anything, we're seeing drivers struggle with getting temperature in the tires early, right? But you know, maybe because that, like you said, you're having to slide the rear end a lot more to get the car through these corners. Maybe the rear end tires start to lose grip. Yeah, it's going to be a tough game to play, and it's something that these drivers have to monitor.
Currently on board with Joe Antonio from the 4th position as he follows Todd Alea around the circuit. And these guys in this battle starting to space out a little bit. You see the weather conditions there on the left, still that crosswind across the circuit from Club over to Copse, if that makes sense. And actually, we can take a look at it, and this will make a lot more sense. As you can see, that the wind is coming over Club. So in this case, it's at the top left of our map, over Club and across to Copse. So it's actually helping them stop, if anything, into Stowe, but it does kind of lift the rear end of the car into Abbey. I'm surprised we haven't seen issues there. And maybe that crosswind is potentially an issue that we saw for Sam Holt through Aintree. Maybe that's why he spun around. It's hard to say, but they do also then have the kind of crosswind through Maggots and Beckett's, a downforce-laden part of the course. As Alea is all but on Terry Crouch, rather. This actually could be a nice little battle.
Very close, and they're working their way down into the opening corner there through Abbey, and seeing these guys. Well, it looks like Crouch opens up the gap through there, so a little bit more confidence maybe for Terry Crouch through the first corner, and it's maybe more under braking that Alea has the advantage.
Todd Alea still working on the back end of Terry Crouch. Further back in the field, we've got another battle inside the top 10. Johnny Alford in a Corvette and Stan Donnet in a Porsche. This is for 8th position. They've been about this far apart most of this race. And Stan Donnet, of course, sporting that Valentino Rossi throwback, that homage, if you will, that we talked about last week at Watkins Glen. And Alford in kind of the classic number 4 Chevrolet Corvette GTE or GTLM paint scheme that we saw run in IMSA for a few years. And it is a good-looking car as well. Problems for Flo Doms. He spins and toes straight to the pit lane.
And I don't see him returning. That might be it for Flo Doms.
The Black 13, it looks like into Brooklands potentially. Goes right around. This is Aintree. No problem there. The car looks all nice and steady. And we haven't seen issues for Ferraris, but we also haven't seen many Ferraris aside from Terry Crouch and Flo Doms, and even Jan Christensen. And, yep, sure enough, Flo Doms around in Brooklands. That car just backs around and comes to a stop.
I can see the frustration there. It looked like he really didn't do much wrong. He set the car up nicely for the corner. I felt turned in pretty nicely, and the rear end just came around. But we've seen that before into Brooklands today already. Just unfortunate, but Flo Doms has called it a day there. He's dipped.
Yeah, that is not a new issue. Driver spinning into Brooklands, unfortunately, has been one of the more common themes of the afternoon. Todd Alea, 4/10 still back of Terry Crouch. It looks like Stan Donnet puts a little bit of time on Johnny Alford. You know what's worth mentioning, actually, is Sam Holt is into the top 10 in the 9th position right behind Johnny Alford and has really made something of this comeback drive. But, interestingly, Emerson, he has lost 1 second extra to Randall White from the last time we talked about that gap. It was 17 seconds about 15 minutes ago. It's now 18 seconds. It's not much of a loss, but it is a loss worth noting, considering we would have expected to see Sam Holt leading the way at this point of the race. That's not the case, as Donnet grabbed a bunch of dirt there. And here we go, a battle out of Aintree down the Wellington Straight. Johnny Alford to the inside into Brooklands, and that Chevrolet Corvette takes that spot away momentarily, but it's not over just yet. Now, finally, he gets that spot, and now Sam Holt has an opportunity on Stan Donnet.
I like that aggression there from Alfred, able to hold on while making that overtake attempt. It gets through, and now side by side down the Old Star finish straight. And I think this is Donnet just letting Holt on through before Copse.
And that's a heads-up move from Stan Donnet. He can allow Sam Holt to go battle with Johnny Alford, and that might open the door for Donnet to go right back on the Chevrolet Corvette of Alford. So that, I think, was a very heads-up move from the 401. Let Sam go unsettle Johnny and see if he can get on by out of Maggots and Beckett's. We'll see if there's a pass attempt made into Stowe. I think Sam might be a little too far back.
At least this time, yes, but I believe Sam is going to continue to pile under pressure. He's been running consistently faster than Alford. It should only be a matter of time.
Watching this battle, this is for the 7th position now. One heck of a run for Johnny Alford so far out of the Mid-South. Might lose a spot, though. I gotta say, I'm impressed. We've not seen much out of the Corvettes yet, and Johnny, last week and this week both, has really turned up the wick and is still in this position as they begin a new lap. Let's check in with Sven Labe and Clint Fletcher as they are nose to tail headed down to Vale. Fletcher in the 13th spot, Labe in 14th. Labe goes a bit deep, but all is well. Gets back under control. And they are just ahead of your amateur race leader in David Payne, which I think is rather interesting to note. He did win to open the season back at Coda, Emerson, but we haven't seen a whole lot of David Payne since then. He has fallen back in the standings just a little bit, missed a race, and he's trying to get things back on track.
Yeah, and this is so far a good run for David Payne himself, but also with the issues that Sancinelli has had and Dan Clark, he had a slide in Maggots Beckett's a couple laps ago that sent him off the course. He lost a bit of time as well. So as far as the two heavyweights at the top of the amateur standings, David Payne should be making up some ground on them, certainly.
How about this over in the YouTube chat? Christian Clark checking in and telling us that, well, he would have raced today at Silverstone, but unfortunately he's got to work at his beach store in San Diego. And I'm jealous. That's the easiest way for me to put that one is I'm jealous. Working at a beach store in San Diego. Yes, it's fun to broadcast the Simpit Road Racing Series, but man, a beach does sound pretty nice right now.
Oh, yeah. Especially this time of year, it's probably not too hot. It's probably just, great time to go right now.
A little over halfway through this race. Now this portion of the broadcast brought to you by Get Closer Racing, Accelerate Esports. As we move into the second half of competition from Silverstone. Sam Holt right back on Johnny Alford. That's what we're watching on screen for 7th position. Again, I'm impressed by the recovery drive from Sam Holt, but we haven't seen him battle a lot of these guys yet this season. So yes, we know he's fast, but it's going to be more and more difficult as he passes more and more cars to actually continue passing cars, and we're starting to see some resistance. I think he's got pace on everybody in the field except for maybe Randall White, but that doesn't mean that you just get to go right by a car. You've got to set up a pass. You've got to actually get the best of that driver, and we just saw a big-time mistake, at least in terms of big-time mistakes for Sam Holt, where he went really, really deep into turn 2, and that doesn't look very big in the grand scheme of things, but he was on the back end of that Corvette briefly and gave that time right back up and out to set him up all over again. Just ran deep once, and again, we don't see many mistakes out of him, so to see that mistake out of Sam was a little bit big.
Yeah, he's had a little wide there, get some grass. So, I mean, maybe Sam's feeling
you can tell he's driving the car, that's for sure. And these battles, as they get tougher, he's now down to 19 seconds behind the race leader, Randall White. So clearly, this round, getting the best of him, we might not be talking to him today after this race, which seems like an oddity. But if we revisit the standings, Emerson, that's only going to keep this more together, I think. If Sam is truly ahead of the competition at most tracks, having an off round for him, man, that's going to help Randall and Terry a ton. I think even Jan Christensen will get back by, potentially. There's only 2 points back, so yeah, he should get by, depending on where Sam is able to finish. And Joa Antonio at least will get closer. As long as Joa keeps this run up, stand on it, might lose less than he would have previously. So this championship standing is, at least in the pro, I think are going to open up a lot as a result of this round here at Silverstone, as they already have. Some pit stops happening while this battle was going on. This was in the background. Clint Fletcher came ahead and pitted. He is now on his outlap back onto the circuit, along with David Payne, your amateur race leader. So similar pit stops, 12.2 seconds for each of them, but Payne a little bit faster as a whole on the pit lane. And Payne now falls into the 4th position in class as they run.
I was going to say, I wonder if there is any more spots up for grabs with him pitting this early, getting a nice stop time. If there's going to be any advantage for Payne to continue to try to work his way up the overall standing, try to put some more cars between himself and the rest of his amateur competition.
This now gives the lead briefly in amateur to Dustin Oberlo in the number 88 Chevrolet Corvette as he works through Abbey and Farm. Looks like he's got some right side damage. Can't tell if that's from curbing or maybe some car contact as he locks up there for turn 3. But Oberlo having a pretty good day overall. And I think I say a pretty good day because it's been a quiet day. He hasn't really made too much noise, and that's a good thing sometimes, as we haven't been talking about him spinning or hitting walls or anything like that. That's usually a good thing. If we don't talk about you much, you're usually having a pretty good day.
Yeah, certainly. Oberlo, he's just doing his thing. He's been keeping himself up here in the top 5 in class, and looks like David Payne just had an off. He's been battling with another car and is now really slow.
So David Payne just came out of the pit lane, gives up a little bit of time to Kenny Step. I saw they were switching positions. I think that might have been a connection issue for a Step potentially. And you can see there's some damage to the back end of that Ferrari, but they continue on. Joe Antonio, actually, there's been a position change that we did not notice for second place. Terry Crouch gave up second recently and has fallen into third, now just ahead of Joe Antonio. Let's see if we can find that pass. This had to have happened recently. I say it had to have happened recently. It's actually been the case for a couple of laps now. Somehow we were able to overlook that, but we're working to find exactly where this pass happened, and it looks like we might have done exactly that. So let's watch this for Todd Alea and Terry Crouch. And I think Terry is still in a great position in the standings as a whole from today, but it's not going to be quite as good as he loses a few points here.
They're coming past the old front straightaway, the old start finish. The Cop's corner. Looks like maybe a little bit of an issue there for Terry at the apex, and Alea says thank you very much. I'll take that spot and I'll keep on keeping on.
So let's watch this back from the perspective now of Terry Crouch, the in-car footage. I think this is always more telling than just watching what happens. So let's watch the hands and the dash here for Terry Crouch and his Ferrari 488. Nicely up into 5th gear before Cops. And I think just coming off the curbing, when he turned in, the car just got light and started to come around on him, but good catch, really. I think watching the handwork, it's like you just let the wheel stay straight and let the car correct itself. But you've got to have a lot of trust in a car to be able to do that. So good heads-up driving there from Terry Crouch, hanging onto that machine. That could have been a lot scarier than it was.
Absolutely. He had trust in himself. It started to kind of do like a lazy spin as it went into the corner and able, just keep it going. And very much still has the opportunity to get that spot back through pit stops.
A bit deeper in the top 10, Chris Generelli in 6th position over Johnny Alford in 7th, and Sam Holt in 8th. Alford starting to reel in this Porsche as he tries to run away from a Porsche. Again, continuing an impressive run for Johnny Alford. Not really checking into the standings all that much. Not necessarily doing anything wrong, but not in the top 10 certainly. So a little bit at a disadvantage for the championship standings currently, but able to maybe get some points here today as he works on 6th position. And that's always going to feel good for a driver, Emerson. That always boosts your confidence to realize that you're starting to really improve and put together some big-time finishes. 22 minutes to go, and he's looking at 6th place.
Absolutely. It's been a stellar run for Alfred. He has been working his way steadily through the field, and has been picking off these cars one by one and showing a lot of muscle in this Corvette. He is really sizing up now. Generelli through Cop's corner and into Maggots and Beckett's this time. That'd be fun to keep up with.
There might have just been an issue potentially for Sarnquist as Sarnquist allows Dan Clark to go by. Sarnquist a pro, Clark an amateur. But let's go back to that battle with Alford and Generelli as they work through Vale, it looks like, and headed down to Club. Actually, I think they might have been Stone now into Vale. No, that was out of Maggots and Beckett's. I've got corners, don't worry. But they'll head down the hangar straight. And does either one of these drivers pit this time, Emerson? I think we're getting to that point where you could absolutely duck in a little bit early, get your pit out of the way, and not have to deal with a cramped pit lane.
Neither one of them taking that time, but Alfred is now stalking the rear end, and a little bit of curbing there the Corvette takes. Certainly won't help.
One more lap complete, that's lap 20 for these drivers, on to lap 21. We're expecting 31, so about 10 laps to go. And, you know, if we talk oval racing, a lot of these guys do double dip. They run a little bit of oval racing themselves. If you talk oval racing, I feel like the gloves come off usually around 10 laps to go. But in a road race, you might have to wait until 5 to go sometimes, and that's tough as a driver. You see that the numbers start to dwindle as far as how much time you have left. It is so tough to pace yourself and just keep composure, and we're seeing a break of composure, I think, for Johnny Alford. Here comes the Porsche up the left side of Johnny Alford. That is Sam Holt to the inside, and pass made for 7th. Holt sat behind Alford for so long and finally takes that spot away. And I think with an ailing Porsche of Generelli ahead, it might be easier for him to get 6th than it was 7th.
Absolutely. I believe Holt, and he's also kind of been watching this battle too, so I'm sure he's picked up a little bit of the tendencies of both of these drivers. He was able to take advantage of Alford there. Now in the Cop's corner, he can close this gap up with Generelli. He'll know where he can make the move and where he should maybe stay
Problems. Dan Clark just went flying through. I'm not sure what corner that was. That might have been into Village. And yeah, it's in the leading portion of the lap, but he was just battling with Ola Sarnquist and was trying to take that position back away. Let's take the onboard look here for Dan Clark and see the, well, the closest thing we have to a driver's eye as to what goes on in this battle. Sarnquist moves over to the left side, and Dan just goes way up the inside and misses that corner entirely. Look at all that lockup smoke. That is not how you do that.
Fortunately, Dan has found himself not up to grips with this track. He's gone off a couple times today and just trying to make the most out of what's been a difficult day for Dan. He's clipped the grass a couple times that sent him off. Just trying to finish it out at this point.
Kenny Stepp working off the pit lane. And usually in an hour race, Emerson, it tends to be around 15 minutes to go where we see drivers head down the pit lane. So is it that time potentially for Randall White coming up in maybe another lap or two? It looks like he's headed through Vale maybe, or is that Maggots and Beckett's? It's always hard to tell. No, Brooklands and Luffield. So he will actually head down to Stowe here in a moment, or Cops rather. Stowe down the line, but regardless, well, another minute off the time, he might actually consider pitting here. I think this lap or the next lap, we see a lot of our leaders finally come into the pit lane. It's worth considering that Terry Crouch has gone a little bit deeper on fuel most of the season and kept his pit stop a little bit lighter, so he could potentially still get that second place away, as you mentioned a little bit earlier in the pit lane. He's got to deal with Joe Antonio, though, breathing down his neck.
I was going to say, this battle is still continuing on. Tadalea has kind of left these two in the dust. It is really Terry Crouch just trying to hold on to the final spot on the podium.
It's definitely been a Randall White kind of day, and here we go, down to the pit lane. Finally goes our race leader. All he's got to do here is execute, and I think he hangs on to this lead. And just like I said, Terry Crouch goes a little bit deeper on fuel. He will continue on as Randall White, Todd Alea, and Joa Antonio will all pit. Joa, a bit of a sketchy pit entrance, it looks like, gives up a little bit of time and gains it back. But here we go. Pit stops underway.
It was wild watching all those pit entries and seeing all their numbers kind of dip into single digits on the telemetry because they're trying to slow down and not speed at pit entry.
Jan Christensen also stays out in the Ferrari. It seems like the Ferrari can go a little bit longer on fuel. Randall White releases. Todd Alea, though, what a pit stop for Alea. He is so much closer now to Randall White. It's a difference of 1.5 seconds in the lane, Emerson, and we have a race for the win at Silverstone. Alea, what a pit stop.
Now, was this Alea just hit the strategy better, or did he try to underfield a car here in hopes that he can get through this battle, maybe try to back up Randall White? We'll have to see, but nonetheless, a great stop. It has now put the race on for this, right now, is 4th position, but 40 overall lead.
Watching the battle from the onboard of Alea onto Randall White. And of course, there's still some time between these guys and still 16 minutes to go, and they just came out of the pit lane, but man, We have got a proper race on our hands potentially if Todd can just get there and use some draft to catch back up. He's lost a little bit of time on the outlap already. I think Randall just turned up the wick immediately as soon as he saw Todd save some time in the pits, turned that wick up and went full send. Alea's got some work to do, certainly. He's there, but he's actually got to execute.
Oh, yeah, and Randall, he hasn't had to push 100% for most of this race. He's been able to maybe save the life of his tires a little bit. So Randall White will probably be apt to duke it out a little bit here in these final 15.
Here come the Ferraris of Crouch and Christensen. And maybe we can see the faux Ferrari, if you will, of Johnny Alford come in that Corvette. It looks so much like a Ferrari, but it is, of course, a Chevrolet. And yes, he will pit this time. Dustin Oberlo and Sean Cole, the only other drivers left to pit. Which actually makes you wonder, especially about Sean Cole. Does he pit this time? Kind of interesting that a Porsche has gone a bit long. We don't usually see that. And here he comes. Like clockwork, Emerson, like clockwork.
Sean Cole is in maybe just a little bit of lift and coast, get an extra lap out of it, and feel it a little less.
Wow. There goes Terry Crouch, 10 seconds on the dot. He gets a little bit of extra time to Joao Antonio. He will not be battling for the race win, but man, that is a quick stop for Terry Crouch. Jan Christensen, 10.45, quick stop as well. Johnny Alford, 11.9 as he works back onto the track right behind Sam Holtz and just ahead of Gennarelli. What a release. That was, oh boy, that would have been hair-raising.
Actually, now we're in a great group of cars here that are going to be kind of doing their thing, and Sean Cole returning to the track. Oh, wow.
Right in front of Sam Hinchey. That was close.
Bad out into a battle. Here we go.
Side by side with Hinchey. This is for the 11th position, and Sean runs wide. My goodness. That gives that 11th position up. Meanwhile, Todd Alea all over the back end of Randall White. I say all over. He hasn't really been all over, but boy, is he in the neighborhood, and he hasn't been yet today. This is a fantastic position to be in. If you're Todd Alea in car 27, is a likelihood maybe on your side right now? No, but the ball is at least in your court, and it's a matter of just going up there and executing at this point, making up some time, and putting pressure on Randall White. And you don't even necessarily have to get up there and pass him. You could just have to get up there and pressure Randall into a mistake. That has happened before, and it could happen today. As I say that, but Randall White looks so good and so.
Yeah, certainly. But this is also the first time since the start of the race that Randall White's had someone this close to his rear end, pressuring for position, and he's gonna have to check the mirror a little bit more, and in turn that could cause one of those mistakes. You miss a braking point, you miss a turning point, and all of a sudden you're offline even a little bit, and the door opens. So plenty of time still in this battle, 12.5 minutes, a little bit over that. So working away through the opening part of the lap.
Oh, Sam Holt has just had to pit again. Killer. I think that might be for off tracks.
Yep, that'll be a pass through there. And wow, the race for Sam Holt, it was looking pretty nicely after the mistake on the opening lap. And still will keep it in the top 10, but it won't do his drive to the field any justice.
Well, that's going to put Sam in the 9th position now. Nearly 4 seconds behind Stan Donnet. Yes, that's a gap that he can make up, but is it a gap that he will be able to make up? At this point in the run, with these tires as used up as they are, 12 minutes to go, it's going to be tough. As here we go, Joao Antonio right back on Terry Crouch. It was a fast stop for Crouch, but it might not have been enough. As here we go, maybe a battle for third. Joao sits back. Would you want to pass it to Maggots and Beckett's in a sports car? I wouldn't.
Not in a sports car. Give me something a little bit more downforce I can ship in there, and maybe. But I wonder with this battle specifically, if Terry, with that 10-second stop, a stellar stop, is it underfueled even a little bit? Does he have to back up? I thought he had a pretty large margin over Antonio coming off the pit lane.
You raised a good point, and I think it's very realistic that Terry could be sitting back a little bit trying to save his stuff the rest of the way, try to get that time so that he could save and just kind of ride to the end, but he doesn't have the gap he wanted. Joe Antonio, 10.3 seconds to the pit lane. That's only 0.3 of a second longer than Terry's pit stop. So it worked, just not well enough. Sam Holt, by the way, has not made up much on staying on it in the last lap. Maybe a couple of tenths. But still sits quite a ways back of the 8th position. As we watch this battle, this is for 3rd. 10 minutes to go. A whole lot of pros dominate the top of this running order, in fact the top 15, but if you look down to 16th spot, David Payne sits there leading in the amateur category. He's got Dustin Oberlo 2 seconds back. We could even have an amateur race win, amateur win, or race for the win. There we go. That's where I was trying to go with that. We could have an amateur race potentially if Payne makes any mistakes or if Oberlo just turns up the wick, but with 10 minutes to go, tires fading, that's a tall order. Oh my goodness.
Oh no.
I think I just spoke that one into existence. David Payne headed down the pit lane. This is unscheduled for him and is almost certainly a penalty for off tracks.
That's one of the difficulties of a track like this, because there's not a lot of camber or banging to the corners. You're more likely to go off on corner exit and easily pick up one of those off tracks. And now it's a gap of 7.5 seconds in Overlow's favor.
That it is. That is big. And Oberlo is far and away now the top amateur driver. 7 seconds. He can lose nearly a second per lap. He does not have to push at this point. Wow. I've never theorized about something and seen it change so quickly, but that time it did. And how about now? 3 amateurs in a row with Oberlo, Payne, and Santinelli on the running order as Santinelli actually goes by Sarnquist out of Aintree. That's a big pass. Sarnquist a pro, Santinelli an amateur. We've seen these two BMWs, though, be nearly identical every single race so far this season. And once more, they're on top of each other, this time the amateur pulling away.
Absolutely, and again, this is Santinelli just trying to put a bow tie in a recovery drive, right? Had that issue early, that spin, I believe it was in Brooklyn. Had to wait for the entire field to pass by, and is now within 2 spots of the current leader in the amateur category. So Santinelli's had a pretty nice recovery drive here. And is just trying to cap it off.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for the amateur drivers, I think, to make up ground on Santinelli. If you look at the amateur field today, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cars. Only 9 drivers out of the amateur field showed up today at Silverstone, which means really if you're an amateur driver out there watching, listening, whether it's live or after the fact, you've got to get your butts in this race. You've got to be here. You can make up points if you just show and add points to add drivers to this field. You can really make up some positions, but when you have fewer drivers here, it's tougher to make up points when you're already behind on the guys ahead. They can have a bad day and still be in the top 3 like Santinelli here today. And of course you have guys that have made some mistakes. Andrew White, 9 laps down. He's parked. No longer continuing in 25th. Mike Nickham has had a rough day. Kenny Stepp as well. Even Alesh Mom, some spins. I mean, it's been a rough going, I think, for some of these AM guys. And it is a tough track, but you've got to keep your head in the game a little bit in some cases and at least show up. And I applaud everybody that has so far today. Further up the field, Johnny Alford is in 6th and working on 5th. The top 5 potentially for a Chevrolet. Didn't think we'd be saying that this season, at least not in the first half. But here we go. Alford is all over that Ferrari.
Sizing him up very nicely. Looks like Yan maybe pushed a little much into the chicane, but hold station there in that 5th position. And we race on. 6.5 minutes coming up.
Alford still working on this spot. 3 to 4 tenths the gap. Our battle up front is about a second apart, by the way, between Randall White and Todd Elliott. It has not changed much, and even the battle between Terry Crouch and Joe Antonio is further apart than this one. As, that's a bit of an off track there for, yep, there we go. Jan Christensen bails out, and he is going to park it. No! Don't park it.
Wow. I'd imagine maybe that one might have led to a penalty, and might maybe just called it a day at that.
Might have. I mean, that's a lot of points you're giving up. Parks the car, goes back to the pit lane. That's a lot of points to give up. What it does do, though, is promote Johnny Alford in car 710 up to 5th position. What a run for him. Just staying consistent, keeping this car on track, not making mistakes. That's all you've got to do sometimes, and it has worked out to a T.
Absolutely. What a run it has been for Alfred. He started 14th, now up to 5th. And most of those spots, he had to make up on his own. Not many of those spots came, at the expense of a driver making a mistake. Well, spinning out of the race or going severely off course right there. That right there, that was a mistake that he kind of caused by forcing the issue, getting that battle going.
Coming up shortly to 2 laps to go, it looks like, as Randall White has just passed the start-finish line, is through sector number 1. And Todd Alea is starting to close back in a little bit, Emerson. We might yet have a battle for this race win. By the time they get back around again, it's looking like it'll be 2 laps to go. It's not over, but Alea's got work to do.
Plenty of work to do, yes. The last lap, Alea did run faster by 5/100ths over Randall White, and that's not as much as compared to the gap, but it is something. It is a spark in the direction for Alea before things come to a close here.
The battle's still open, but you see that 1 now in front of the decimal. That's flirting with danger, I think, for Alea. Usually, the second mark is regarded as the end of the draft, basically, on iRacing. So if you're a second back of Randall White, I don't think the wake is doing anything for you. Yeah, you can see out of cops, there's just nothing for Todd, and I think that's it. It's going to take a mistake now out of Randall White to give up this race. But you know who it won't take a mistake for is Terry Crouch. Here comes Joe Antonio out of Maggots and Beckett's. This is close. Maybe a car length between them. Joa backs off. Grows that gap a little bit into Stowe, and Terry Crouch lives to see another corner in the 3rd position. But at some point, man, Joa's got to get aggressive. He's been so calm, so well poised behind Terry and others this entire race. At some point, you've got to try and make the pass, I think, just as a racer. You got to go for the gap, and I think if he just doesn't back out into Stowe that time, he might have an opening to the inside. But at the same time, it's working for him, right? He's 4th place, so clearly he's doing something right.
Certainly, and I feel like Antonio feels he has the advantage in this battle by a decent margin. Maybe he's flirting with Vincent at points, or maybe he just wants to wait until there's a little bit less time for maybe another go back at himself before he can make a move here on Terry Crouch. But with 2 laps to go, it is about that time for Joe Antonio to get going here.
You've got to go. 2 laps to go. Inside of 3 minutes. Now inside of 2.5 minutes. These opportunities are going to start running thin, and now you can see Terry has opened up a bigger gap, a larger gap. He's opening up a little bit extra time. So if Joa goes into Stowe this lap, but he's further behind Terry than he was last lap, I think that was a big opportunity missed and potentially opportunity gone for Joa. We'll see what happens. I think playing nice certainly can get you in a good spot like 4th, but if you want that extra step up to 3rd, you've got to get aggressive here with Terry Crouch. We'll see. Maggots and Beckett's next for the Ferrari and the Porsche. Terry runs deep. A little bit of dab of a break now. Oh, he gave up a little bit of time there. Terry's struggling with the downforce.
Joa has that confidence in the car, and a little bit of rear end slide there for Terry Crouch, and now another run down the hanger straight. I do believe Terry will have a larger gap this time as opposed to last lap, but he is not home free.
This race not over. Randall White just ahead of the road of these guys in the 1st position over Todd Alea. Comes through Vale. And this time by, it'll be the white flag at Silverstone. 1 lap to go. White flag is out, presented by Whiplash Simcams.
And if you've been holding back, this is it. You're looking at this battle. Actually, yeah. I was reading it wrong. But if you're looking at this battle, it's time for Antonio to make this move.
It is. He's got to go sometime this lap, obviously, as it's the final lap, but I think sooner than later. You want to upset that 59 car, get by him as soon as possible and try and get yourself a gap, but you do not want to wait until the last quarter, because you can try a few times on this lap. You don't have to get it right the first time. You can try in multiple corners, so give yourself as many opportunities as possible, but Joa just doesn't have enough for Brooklands that time. He's got to wait.
Joa does know, though. He's
He's on him.
He's got the advantage of Maggots and Beckett's for sure.
Oh, that was a slight bobble out of Terry, out of Brooklands. Or out of left field, rather. He got the power down fine, so he powers away down the old front stretch. Into Cops, though, I think Joa's really got to push and maybe collect an off track if he's got it. If he's got it in the bank, maybe run a little bit wide here. Terry runs wide.
Terry does.
Where's he at with the incidents? White flag, you can see officially out, presented by Whiplash Sim Cams. Terry Crouch still in that third spot. Holding it over Joa Antonio, but Antonio's been so good out of Maggots and Beckett's. Can he get him this time at a Stowe?
Got a huge run this time. It's now or never.
The final opportunity inside of 2/10. Does Joa go up the inside? He looks, but no dice. Terry a little bit wide. There's a car width to the inside. It might happen in Vale. This is not for the race win, though. Ahead of these guys, Randall White will exit club. And yeah, Joa sits back. So Randall White is going to win at Silverstone, and car 84 goes to victory lane for the first time this season, matching a stellar opening to the season. And there goes Terry Crouch for third, Joa Antonio fourth, Johnny Alford will soon come across for fifth, Todd Alea, by the way, second place. That is a stellar, exceptional effort out of car 27.
Absolutely. Everybody in this top five put on a great race, a great run today. Randall White, a well-deserved, dominant victory. And for Sam Holt to get back to seventh, wow. Of course, it's better than ninth where he came off the pit lane. I'm sure Sam Holt felt top five was definitely on the table for himself.
Meanwhile, the amateur race leader and soon-to-be race winner has 3 seconds over David Payne. He's not home free. He could make a mistake, but Dustin Oberlo is so close. He can taste it. Victory literally just ahead.
Yeah, also still on this side of the circuit, with David Payne, he's got Sancinelli back in Maggots and Beckett's, and in Sarnquist, pro, still back there as well.
That was the big hurdle he had to get over with Stowe. Into Vale this time, the final big complicated corner for him, and he nails it perfectly through the first end of the chicane, to the second end of the chicane, and Dustin Oberlo is going to exit club at Silverstone, a Simpit Road Racing Series class winner. Congratulations, car 88, not even in the top 10 in standings. That is going to be huge for his season. Sancinelli, the points leader, meanwhile, will have a rough day, but still come home third behind David Payne. And Ola Starnquist will be the final car to finish this race in 18th position. Several drivers, one lap down. We'll get your full rundown here in just a moment. As Sarnquist comes across the line, Nicholas Batista credited with 27th as he did not start this event. Again, tip of the cap to Oberlo. I really like what he's done in that Corvette. 2 really good days for Corvettes with Johnny Alford and Dustin Oberlo. Just staying consistent, not putting themselves in bad positions, and capitalizing on other mistakes.
Andrew, you want to... So when the drivers get the passenger penalty for incidents, it's at 12x. You want to know how many incident points Overlow had?
11. I can see it. That's wow. That is flirting with danger. And you know what? Terry Crouch was at 10. Another couple of off tracks. He would have been close. Sam Holt was at 18 of the 25 he would have been allowed. Actually, 22 would have been another penalty, so he was getting close. Car contact with his battle with Stan Donnet could have been it for Sam Holt. A whole lot of guys really close, and Andrew White comes out of this, sure, 25th position, 13 laps down, but at 21 incidents, he was so close to that next black flag. Let's go ahead and go through your unofficial race results today from Silverstone, and there you go. Randall White, your race winner. Todd Alea second over Terry Crouch, Joa Antonio, and Johnny Alford, your top 5. Chris Generelli 6th, Sam Holt 7th, Stan Donnet, Moses Choi, and Sam Hinchy, your top 10. 47 seconds separating those 10 drivers.
11th, we have Sean Cole, James Dowling, 12th, Sven Laban, 13th, and Clint Fletcher there in 14th. That's a minute 17 back. It's our amateur race winner, finishing 15th overall and a minute 27 back off of Randall White's finishing time. David Payne there in 16th and Cincinnati in 17th. The top three there in amateurs, Overload, Payne, and Santinelli. Sarnquist there in 18th, the last car to finish on the lead lap. Schultz finishes as first driver, 1 lap off the pace. And Dan Clark had a very frustrating day. Had a chance to make up points on Santinelli, wound up losing out there also in 20th and 1 lap down.
21st is Alesh Mom. Kenny Stent finishes 22nd. Mike Nickham 23rd. Then Jan Christensen, 4 laps down, bails out of the race early. Really puzzled as to why he did that. But Andrew White 25th, Flo Doms 26th, and Nicholas Batista 27th. And for Jan Christensen, yes, he did just go over the penalty mark of 13 incidents, so I think that was it, but it's still puzzling as to why you would pull over and give up, in my opinion. But hey, we'll see if he's able to come back from that and we just use today as a drop week potentially. That might be the play for Yan. But what a race we just saw here at Silverstone. I'm genuinely very impressed with this field. That was exciting.
Absolutely. An entertaining race for sure, and the GTE cars continue to put on shows each and every week for the Simpit.
While we await some drivers post-race here to talk to us and give us their feelings and thoughts about today's race, we're going to step aside for a quick message from our partners here at Pit Stop TV and the Simpit Road Racing Series. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the virtual Silverstone circuit at Pit Stop TV. We raced through the morning and into the midday, and it was Randall White having nothing close to a midday, if you will, winning here at Silverstone over Todd Alea, Terry Crouch, and others, as Dustin Oberlo will go to amateur victory lane. Pretty good days for a lot of these drivers in the field, Emerson. Let's go ahead and talk to some of them, at least the guys we were able to get a hold of after this one. Kind of interesting. A lot of these guys don't show up to interviews, so for all drivers out there, whether you're watching live or watching after the fact, if you are interested in an interview and you place at the front of the field, join the green room. And it does look like Randall White checked in, so we do have all of our top twos. That's a good thing. So let's go ahead and get Randall White, your race winner today, at Silverstone. And Randall, we've watched you throughout the first few races of this season go toe-to-toe with guys like Terry Crouch and others, but you just haven't been able to get that race win until today. How'd it happen?
Did a lot of practice, did a lot of work on the setup, and I was just like looking forward, focusing on every apex. Didn't really care what was going on behind me. I felt the pressure a little bit, but I was just really trying to focus forward.
And how about that pressure, especially out of the pit lane with Todd Alea breathing down your neck? How do you manage that behind the wheel?
Yeah, he really got close to me after the pit stop. My pit stops have been slow all season. I'm not really sure why I'm always a second slow in that, but I was just trying hard to stay ahead of him.
Well, you finally have that first race win in the books, along with 4 races of this season. You will hold on to and extend your points lead. How does that feel? You haven't necessarily been in, well, you haven't been in victory lane yet, but you are the point leader now, 4 races in. That's got to be a good feeling.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. I've been trying to, get top 5s every week. I snuck in a win today. We'll see how the rest of the season goes.
There you go, Randall White, a nice and easy looking, not easy, but easy looking race win today here at Silverstone. Can't wait to talk to you more, Randall. Congratulations today. We'll see you next time out at Daytona.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
Randall White, a nice and easy looking race win here at Silverstone. Let's go on down to second place in our pro class. That is Todd Alea with the overall and pro second place. And Todd, a recent addition to the series, Emerson, he is firing on all cylinders, second place today.
Absolutely, and a great race for Todd Alea. Started 5th, ends up in 2nd. I know you wanted to get to that top step of the podium, Todd. What more could you have done?
Yeah, I'm kind of the first loser again, but I had nothing for Randall. He was just way too fast, and I used up a lot of tires trying to make my way up through the field. I was like 3 seconds behind him for a little while. And then the car just got loose towards the end of the race. I had actually saved my tires too much, and I just couldn't power out of the corners without spinning. So, I almost lost it a couple times. But when Sam spun out on the first lap, I was like, oh, wow, this is anybody's race now. But I think Randall might have had something for him. Regardless, Randall was very strong here.
It certainly looked like it, as you were also strong. You had got into a battle with Terry and Joe, and then you kind of drove away from them once you cleared it. What was going on in that battle, and where did you see your advantages?
These guys are so much faster than me usually, and you see Terry's name everywhere on the Simpit webpage as champion. So I wasn't trying to pass anybody. I was just trying to follow and save up, because I know at the end of the race is when it matters to push. So I was just trying to save fuel and save tires, and Joao made a mistake that I was able to capitalize on, and then Terry made a mistake that I was able to capitalize on. I wasn't really trying to push anything. They just I guess the track was a lot warmer than maybe we expected, and it was slippery. It was slippery for everybody except for Randall.
All right, and next up is Daytona. How do you feel about your chances there?
Daytona's a draft train, so anybody can win it. It's almost like Daytona NASCAR or Talladega NASCAR. Anybody can win it. So, it's the great equalizer, I think, when it comes to tracks. Silverstone is much harder technically, but Daytona, you can make up a lot of time just drafting. So we'll see. It's anybody's race. Hopefully I'll get lucky, be on the podium, be in first place one of these races.
Absolutely. And there you go. That is second place finisher Todd Alea. I know one spot short of what he wanted today here at Silverstone, but looking to improve upon that heading into next week at Daytona.
Todd Alea wraps up an easy second place, and a big thank you to Todd for his time. Let's go on down then to your amateur race winner today, Dustin Oberlo in car 88. It's not often we talk about a Corvette post-race, but here we go. Dustin Oberlo with the amateur race win. That's got to feel pretty good, Dustin. How does it feel, and how did you get it done?
Oh, man. I'm here again, and I was not expecting to be here. It feels really, really good. Coming into the race, I was looking at times, and I was way back, and it seems like there are a lot of drive-throughs today, so I just stayed clean and got up to the first place.
And didn't we say last week that we'd see you here again and in victory lane this time? And here we go. Car 88 wins. It wasn't always looking like that, though. What was going through your mind when you saw David Payne had to have to take that drive-through?
You know, I actually didn't know that he had a drive-through. All of a sudden, he was just behind me, and then he was slowly creeping back up to me. So he was definitely faster. I think another 3 laps, 2-3 laps, he would have had me, and he would have had the win instead of me. So honestly, out of sight, out of mind. So I just was driving my race.
Well, this is going to be huge for your season. You're not in the top 10 in standings yet. You might be after this race, so that's going to be big going into a place like Daytona where really it's a great equalizer. There's so much straightaway there. If you know how to work the draft, it's going to work well. How do you feel with that Corvette going to a place like Daytona?
Well, I'm hoping that I can make that race. I'm going to be on a flight back from Vegas at 6 a.m., so we'll see if I can make it. Definitely going to get some practice in before I leave this weekend, though. And yeah, we'll try my best if I can make it.
Well, at least in some way you'll be flying next Sunday. It might not be on the racetrack, but you'll be flying home maybe. Hopefully it's on the racetrack. Can't wait to see what Car 88 can do next week. Congratulations on the win today. We'll talk to you then.
Yeah, thanks, guys. You do a great job.
Thank you very much. And that's Dustin Oberlo. A big thank you to him for his time. And now David Payne, second place in Class Emerson. Maybe not what he wanted, maybe not what he deserved, but it's still a good day.
Certainly a good day for David Payne, and is able to make up some points in of a point standings over Santinelli and company. But David, I know that drive-through was painful.
Yeah.
What kind of happened?
By the time I reached Kenny Step on about lap 17, just as we were side by side, he started blinking like crazy. In my view, and then he ended up blinking on top of me and gave me a 4X, which put me over.
Oh.
So, yeah. It doesn't look like that on the replay, but during the race, he was blinking like nobody's business. So, but, you know, sim racing.
Unfortunately, one of the imperfections of a sim like iRacing, David. Still, though, nothing to scoff at with a second place finish today. Overall, how did your day go? Did you think maybe there was any more pace you had in it, maybe open up a gap to where the drive-thru wouldn't have hurt as much?
I think just being more consistent would have helped a lot. More practice on the long runs, I think. Gain more practice, more experience there would have helped me a lot. Yeah, I think that's what it came down to.
All right, next up is Daytona. How do you feel things can play out down
Pretty good there.
in the Sunshine State?
I think that's good. I think that's a good track for me. I've raced it considerably more than I have Silverstone, so. But I think I have a good chance of matching or beating him as well next week.
There you go. That is second place finisher in the amateur category today, David Payne. Again, one spot shy of what he wanted. Was leading, got a drive-through penalty to kind of unfortunately put a damper on today, but we'll be looking to improve upon that next week.
David, thanks for your time. Congratulations on second place, and yeah, that wraps things up for Car 73. We already went through our race results. Let's talk about what's coming up then at Pit Stop TV as we put Silverstone in the rear view mirror. You can see, hey, that's something new on Monday. And on Monday, it's not Tuesday anymore. We are scrapping the legends, and I'll just be frank and honest, and I think a little bit upfront about this. That is a fun broadcast slot for us. It is a for fun kind of thing, so we're moving things around a little bit. The Legends didn't quite pop off like we wanted it to, so we're going to try SK Modifieds here on Pit Stop TV. And you can see right there, it actually says 8 Eastern. We have flexed, I think, hang on, I actually checking my messages. See, this is how kind of flowing it is. We're working with Zach Murtis to find the right split, we think, for this. Let me go back to our messages and check. I can't recall if it's open or fixed now. And yes, it is the fixed race at 8 Eastern. So that is the correct one. The fixed race at 8 Eastern for SK Modifieds. That's tomorrow. And that is the very first race of the new week. So that is the very first race for SKs at Linear. What could possibly go wrong? It's going to be a lot of fun regardless. 40 laps straight up for those guys at Linear Raceplex. I am excited. Then Wednesday, you see the Outlaws Sim Series, Darlington Raceway, 7:30 Eastern. That's going to be a fun little throwback opportunity before we take the Simpit Road Racing Series to Daytona. And Emerson, fill us in on what's going on with the Outlaws Sim Series.
Well, at Talladega, fittingly, it was a non-playoff driver taking the win in Jason Miz. So that leaves still the 7 slots open on points for the 11 drivers. That's all just the playoff drivers, not including Seth Fitzpatrick, who won at USA International. And the track that's dubbed as Too Tough to Tame, the Lady in Black, is going to put on a great show Wednesday night. You won't want to miss it.
So there you go. Plenty of broadcasts coming up at Pit Stop TV. And man, I'm excited to see these guys under the lights at Daytona. You can see that Ford GT barreling into turn 1, locking up maybe a little bit into that corner. I'm excited to see what these guys can do at the World Center of Racing. There's plenty of ways to keep up with Pit Stop TV. You can see them there at the bottom of the screen. Facebook.com/Pit Stop TV. Twitter.com/Pit Stop_. Totally got off track there. Instagram.com and Twitch.tv/pit_stop_TV and YouTube.com/C/Pit-Stop-TV1. A big thank you to everyone for watching here today. Emerson, how do you wrap this one up?
Well, I think Silverstone put on a show today, a pretty chaotic show throughout the day. There's some moments I kind of put the standings wide open, and off tracks were a key factor today. So keep it in between the white lines, boys.
And you see the remaining schedule, or really the whole schedule, as we're through 4 races. That means Daytona comes up next week, then Monza in Italy, Red Bull Ring in Austria, Circuit de la Sarthe, Le Mans there in France, before we go to Sebring in Florida and Fuji Speedway, Fuji International Speedway, that is, in Japan. So 6 really good races remaining, 6 really amazing race courses, I feel like. Perennial race courses, certainly. Daytona, Monza, Red Bull Ring, Le Mans, Sebring, Fuji. Really cool courses coming up as we run into December. Thanks so much for watching here at Pit Stop TV. We truly have appreciated you guys tuning in, and that will do it from the virtual Silverstone circuit in England. For all of us here at Pit Stop TV, Emerson Arden joining me on the call. A big thank you, by the way, stepping in the absence of JP Costa. We should have JP next week, though, for Daytona. It's been a lot of fun, Emerson. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much, everybody else, for watching, and we will see you next time, hopefully, at Daytona. And even more hopefully, maybe for one of the races in between again. SK Modifieds Linear tomorrow, Outlaws Sim Series from Darlington Wednesday. We'll see you there.